Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for our Peace Talk conversation about Dear Evan Hansen. We are so privileged tonight to have joining us John Hemphill and Lily Thomas, both from the company of Dear Evan Hansen. John and Lily, thank you for joining us. I'm going to let you both, in turn, if you would, introduce yourselves, tell us what roles you play in this show, maybe some other favorite roles you've played in the past. Lily, why don't you kick us off?
I'm Lily Thomas, and I play Cynthia Murphy in Dear Evan Hansen.
Any other favorite roles? I know you said you do a lot of teaching. So what are some other favorite roles you've played either on or off stage?
I do teach. I love to teach. I also am a mother, and that is my favorite role of them all.
Awesome. Excellent. Welcome. We're glad to have you, Lily. John, welcome. What can you tell us about yourself and the role you play in this show?
Thank you. I'm John Hemphill. I play the role of Larry Murphy. I have enjoyed being on the Broadway stage with Mamma Mia. That's been a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun, and School of Rock, but this show has been certainly a highlight. So for sure.
And I saw that you toured with Curious Incident. Were you through Greenville with the tour? Have you been?
I don't think we did. I don't think. Okay. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I can't quite remember. It's all a blur. But
yeah, right. I'm sure it all runs together. One city runs into the next one, right?
Yeah, that was also a pretty special show too. So yeah, absolutely.
Great show. Well, I'm so excited to be able to talk about Dear Evan Hansen. As a musical theater historian, people think I know everything about every show, right? Which is a misnomer. I do not. But they often come to me and ask me, what is this one about? They don't know anything about it. It's not adapted from a film. It's not a catalog of music that they know. So they're like, I'd like to get season tickets to the Peace Center or whatever theater, but I don't know Dear Evan Hansen. So what would you say to them? What is this show about?
I would say for me, it's about communication and it's about family. I think that also it has some themes that have been a little bit reinvented since post-pandemic or post the height of the pandemic, about technology as a means of communication and about togetherness and feelings of being alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. John, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think that's dead on, and I think that the feelings of isolation that a lot of us have felt through this pandemic, I think really accentuate the themes of this show. That I hate to do it, but you are not alone. That that idea that even though we might be isolated, whether that because of the pandemic or because of social media or something like that, right? That there are people out there that love us and care for us, and so you really are left with a feeling of hope, even though it's dealing with some really challenging issues. So
absolutely. So when this show premiered on Broadway in December of 2016, the Washington Post wrote in its review that it was one of the most spectacular shows in theater history. What is it that you think makes this show so spectacular? Because truly it's in a class by itself in a lot of ways. And I wonder, for you who live with it day in and day out, what makes them say something like that about it?
Well, I think that it's a very honest show. It's a very truthful, heartfelt show that a lot of parents, young people, all can connect to. And so I think because it's so well written in such a real way, I think people really connect to it in that way. It's also very impactful because of the incredible music, incredible visuals. It really is a all-encompassing wonderment of show, Yeah. And so I think all those things combine to really, really move audiences in ways that maybe shows up to this point had not. So
yeah, Lily, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a spectacular show without making a spectacle, which I think it sort of is not traditional in the vein of musical theater in that way, where you really feel like you're watching a play. You feel like it's a little bit more realistic, a little bit more relatable. These characters are, first of all, there are only onstage characters, and you kind of don't realize that because it does feel so grandiose in some ways, but the grandiose feeling, I think, comes from the emotional capacity that you're witnessing on stage and the juxtaposition between these characters who are not defined as protagonists or antagonists. And I think that's what makes them so relatable. What John was saying, they're real human beings trying to do their best, and you witness them succeed and you witness them fail. And so it's not so presentational in that way that musical theater maybe has been more commonly known to be in the past. Of, oh, we want you to root for this person and follow their journey, and then here comes the bad guy. There's none of that. And so I think what it does is it sort of opens up the audience member to a sense of vulnerability that maybe they're not used to feeling at the theater.
Yeah, and Lily, I'm really glad that you mentioned the 8 characters on stage, because I want to talk about the 9th character. So producer Stacy Mindich, who was a major creative force behind getting this show through development with Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, who were the writers of the show, with Stephen Levinson, who wrote the libretto. She has referred to social media, of all things, as the 9th character in Dear Evan Hansen. So I want to talk about the role that social media plays in this show. And that's really one of those distinctives that made it so groundbreaking from the very beginning, is that it was able to jump on that when really no shows prior to it had. So let's talk about social media and the role that it plays in Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you see is you see the loss of control between these human beings at the mercy of social media in this. And you see how the use of it can throw and turn all of their tracks and all of their characters, and what needs to be done to pick up the pieces. So the power that social media holds, and, you know, as a parent, it's something that is very much in the forefront of my mind all the time, as somebody who didn't grow up with it, but now is trying to parent through it. It has changed our world, and it's changed the generations that come, and even the generational gaps and divides that we feel in the cast, because we do have, you know, we have really young cast members, and we have from, you know, I think 19 up through adult, and there are differences in the ways that we've all grown up with the exposure of social media. And I think that technological presence is, you know, you can't ignore it anymore. And right. So to call it a 9th character and see how it's woven in and the power that it holds, I think it's really about that power.
Yeah, John, what about you? Anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is interesting to think of it as that 9th character, because, you know, social media can be used for incredible good, and it also can be abused. And I just can't imagine the challenges and the frustrations of young people having to deal with this outside engine, this outside animal that can change and reroute their lives without their control. And, you know, and that's a scary thing, Lily, as a parent. I know that it's a scary thing. And so I think that, you know, this show really highlights the power of that and the danger of that, but also highlights the good that it can do as well. You know, so I think, again, just as these characters are not demonized for being protagonist or antagonist, the social media almost isn't either. That it shows the good and it also shows the dangers of it. So, and you're right, it really hadn't been looked at in that way before. And I think, you know, 5 years in, it still holds true today. So I think, and even maybe more so as it gets more widespread now.
Yeah, and so speaking of social media, so as you'll see, when you see Dear Evan Hansen, there is a massive, what would you call this backdrop? Technological, how do y'all refer to that? As this big board with all kinds of Instagram posts. Automation, there you go. So there's this big automated board that will show all kinds of different posts, and it's brilliantly done by set designer David Corns, and it's fascinating the way that it's used. But speaking of the use of social media, the show was able to very inventively pull in some fans who had interacted with the show via hashtag you will be found, right? Is this something you all can speak to about how the Fansons, which is what Dear Evan Hansen fans are called, Fansons, have interacted with the show and even become part of the scenery, literally?
Yeah, I mean, they're incredible. The Fansons are amazing, and they really do play a part in this journey of each of individual performers as well as the show in general. And yeah, they many of the pictures they ended up on stage, which I think is incredible. So you know, and that's I think that goes kind of in line with the theme of this technology and how actually look, we are together, we're a community. And I think that's a very big thing, an important thing for our fan base, is that it does feel like a community, and it is. We're all actors that have come and gone in this show, continue to be entwined in this group, in this community. So and the fans out there play a big part in that. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and in a show that it has such strong themes of inclusivity, to be able to have that translate and extend beyond just the inner workings of the production to the Fansons, and to, you know, there will never be a point where that inclusive feeling and message of this show is you know, meets a boundary. And that I love, especially, you know, speaking with Stacy and the whole production team about really making sure that these themes of the show are translated within the community of the people involved with the show and the people and the audiences. It's been really wonderful to see that dedication.
And I think the fans appreciate too, that they feel like they're being heard. It's a loop, right? It's a feedback loop where they feel like they're being heard. The cast and company is obviously thrilled to be interacting with the people whose lives are so impacted by this brilliant show. Now, something that I want to finish, I know our time is running short, but I want to finish up speaking about that set, right? So this is something, I'm going to let you describe it, because like I said, you live with it day in and day out, but I'm wondering, what's it like to travel around the country with this set piece, which is kind of monolithic? I mean, it seems like it could be the 10th character if the social media is the 9th, right?
Yeah, well, it kind of is. I mean, I think that for me, we move a lot, and so things are always changing. Things are always different. The stage door is always in a different place. The you know, our commute is always different to the theater. But once we get onto that stage or into the wings, it's the same. And so that sense of I guess well-being that comes from familiarity with the set is something that I find peace.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, sure.
And
right?
It does feel like another, gosh, is it the 10th character, I suppose?
Right.
I mean, you know, because it moves and it shapes and we weave around it, and it's communicating through those projections and those screens as we are communicating with each other, and it's really cool. It's really cool.
It is really cool. What do you think, Lily? Got anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the same thing. It's so comfortable to be able to say, okay, I'm on the deck. It's the same. I know where this little scratch is, or I know where the rivet is. You know, I mean, definitely this is my first tour, and so I'm still trying to adjust to all of the changes. And so when I step onto the deck, it's like, oh, okay, I'm home. Here we are.
Yeah.
Right.
But for everyone out there that doesn't know, that the backstage behind the set is as intricate and amazing as what you see in front, with all of the cable and all of the machinery and the computers and the flashing lights and all of that, which is just mind-blowing to me.
The furniture that's hanging in the air. I mean, there are things that when I arrived, I mean, it took me weeks to sort of absorb all of it, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned that we did these peace talks in person pre-pandemic. They were all in person, and we would often have time for Q&A from our audience members. And one of the favorite questions to be asked was, are there any backstage bloopers that you can share with us? Things when maybe a certain screen didn't do what it was supposed to do, or maybe that furniture didn't fly in on time. Is there anything that you can share with us? Because believe it or not, we all love to hear those stories of the show must go on, right?
Absolutely. Lily, do
So
you
what
have
would
one?
you share with us in that regard?
Um, no, I mean, there was one time where the file cabinet, I remember, didn't go on, and I was waiting to come on stage, and Evan and his mother Heidi are having a scene where he's usually sitting on this file cabinet, and I'm waiting for my cue. And then I looked at him and I said, oh, he's standing. Why is he standing? What's happening here? And just something so little like that made me just sort of, and I couldn't really even figure out what was different. It was just that something was different. In terms of just making it work with having to go on. That's the most recent one.
Yeah.
There's a scene we call it Heidi at the Murphys, and top of the scene is I'm supposed to give a card, my business card, to Heidi, and I'm supposed to put that in my pocket before I go out on the stage. I did not one show, and I said, "Let me give you a card." Oh no, I had to work my way around justifying not having a card. I was something like, I'm fresh out. Sorry, I'll have to, I'll get you one. Let's keep going. You know what I mean? You just kind of have to keep it rolling. Live theater,
Yeah.
right? Things are going to go
power
wrong.
through.
You got to roll with it.
You got to power through. Exactly. Well, this is the first national tour of Dear Evan Hansen. And I'm curious, how do you keep it fresh, right? This show has, like I said, it premiered on Broadway in December of 2016. It's been in the West End in London. I mean, it's toured extensively. How do you keep it fresh every night for people who maybe haven't seen it before and are just experiencing it for the first time?
Well, I keep it fresh because of Lily right there and all the other actors that I get to act with. It's different for us every night as we're looking across from each other and just telling the truth of what's happening in the moment. And so for that, in that way, every show is different and every audience gets their own special show. And really, for me, that's the big thing that keeps it fresh. And we could do it 1,000 times. We could do it 2,000 times. And it's going to be different every time we do it, So that's
the themes are so honest. There's no way to not have an honest and a true emotional reaction to this brilliant book by Stephen Levinson. And I could not have been more lucky to join this tour and walk into a room and meet John Hemphill and say, wow, I get to do this with him every night. I mean, he keeps it fresh for me as well. We really are just talking to each other and communicating with each other. So there is, just to echo, there are no two shows that are the same. And the themes are just heavy enough to always care about them the same amount.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what it does so beautifully is it talks about a teenager or teenagers in crisis, but it also is talking about the parents in crisis, right? It opens with that number. Anybody got a map, right? So there really is something for everyone, every age group. It's not a teenager show. It's not a parent show. There's a lesson for all of us to learn, or we'll see ourselves, no matter who we are, reflected in the show.
I'll share a little tidbit about that because, I took some time off to parent my children. I took some time off from performing, and I saw the show, original Broadway production, during that time off. And I remember thinking to myself, for the first time, I'm identifying with sort of like with the adults and the parents in the story. And I had never seen parents written so honestly and written, I said, wow, okay, if that's where Broadway is going, like I have a place here that I care about as a parent role. And this isn't just a show about the kids and the parents are sort of secondary. This is really the parents who are bringing their children to see the show will see a completely different show through their eyes, and everybody has an equivalent, meaningful show, but just through the different lens at a different angle, depending on who's watching it and who they're that person is that they're going to relate to. Everybody is an
Absolutely.
integral part in this. It's almost like an octagon, you know?
Yeah.
And everybody sort of brings their slice together. It's really beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, I have one quick question just to wrap us up. I know our time is short, but I wonder if you could play any other role in this show, what would it be and why?
Whew.
Well, I played Jared because he's just funny and goofy.
Yeah.
And it might be nice to just be goofy and not cry. You know,
That's what I was gonna say.
you know,
I was
although he
gonna
has to
say.
sing really high though, so I'm not sure. Although I have to sing pretty high too. But
All right. So Jared's the one. That's the dream role, right?
that's right.
Well, listen, Lily and John, thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to having you in Greenville in just a few weeks, and we will see you when you get in town. But
Can't
thank
wait.
you again for joining us. Thank you for your time. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. There's our Peace Talk for Dear Evan Hansen, the 6-time Tony Award winner, the 2017 Best Musical Tony Award winner. It'll be here in Greenville before you know it. We'll see you then.